Hey guys, and welcome back to my business Q&A sit down video. Thanks so much again for all your amazing questions. This video theme is going to be all about time management, organization, and then a little bunch of miscellaneous questions that were just too good not to answer. So let's jump in. The first question I think I'm going to start with is somebody wrote to me and said, how do you start an Instagram page? And it's not a stupid question at all, and it's a really common one, and I feel like it comes from a place of fear. It comes from a place of unknown. If you've not ever started like a branded Instagram page, then why the hell would you not have a question about how to go about it? Especially since it takes a lot of time and investment of your creative resources. I guess wanting to know the secret formula is not a stupid question at all. Unfortunately, there is no magic answer. Just start the Instagram account. I mean, the hardest part is deciding the name. I've always found that. Like, I think of a name on Instagram and I just quickly go and I open that account and then I just leave it. I have like 10 on my phone just sat empty Instagram accounts just because I love the name. Ready and waiting for when I want to just start. Running an Instagram account is a full-time job, believe me. But before you get to that point, you do just need to begin. And beginning often means beginning imperfectly. But it is better to start imperfectly than to not start at all, or put off starting because you want that perfect first post. Literally, it didn't happen for me, it didn't happen for any of the people that I know that are my colleagues, my fellow Instagrammers. We just started, and you learn from there, because the minute you start realizing what works, what doesn't work. You post something and it engages well, or you post something you're really proud of it, then you know it's a good piece of content. Keep doing that. If you post something and you've got a bit of a funny feeling like, oh, I'm not sure about this, maybe the picture wasn't right, maybe you just couldn't get the words together, then again, it's not going to be perfect, but you learn from it, right? I feel like so many people like wait for a sign that they can start now. But the truth is, guys, that sign ain't never coming. That comes from you and you alone. Only you can start. No one is gonna walk up to your front door and go, hey, I heard you want to start an Instagram account. Take my hand. I have all the answers. Come with me. I'll do it for you. Never gonna happen. It's up to you and you alone. You just need to start, because nobody gets good at something unless they try and try and try again. So if you are posting, and the more you're posting and the more time you're giving to it, the more energy and creativity that will show and that will pay off. You'll soon find your feet, your branding, your voice, your cause, your message, your style, and then before you know it, you've got a beautiful feed full of valuable information that you're really proud of. Make mistakes. Making mistakes is the best way to grow and learn and nail what you're doing. No one got successful without making mistakes. No one got successful without posting something that they now look back on and they're like, ooh, I'm not sure about that. I heard a quote the other day and it went something like this: if you're not looking back on your old work, your old projects, your old writing, your old stuff, and feeling a tiny shudder of embarrassment, then you're not growing, you're not developing, and you're not getting better, right? We all want to be able to look back and say, wow, is that really what I put out there? Like, I look back on my first YouTube video, I'm like, oh my god, like, I was nervous, I didn't know how to speak to camera, I was stuttering, and I remember filming it and shaking it, and it just seems so awkward now, but it's a great representation of how far I've come and how much better at this job I've gotten, which is a great thing. So yeah, start that Instagram account today, no excuses. Put something shit up, regret it 5 years time, see how much you've grown. So I really love this next question. Somebody has asked me, do you delegate much of your work? And the answer is yes, I do. I delegate. And could I delegate more? Most certainly. And I'll let you in on a secret. I know a lot of really big Instagrammers that don't delegate anything, but their workload compared to mine is tiny. They might be bigger than me on Instagram in terms of follower count, but the actual flow and work management of what's going on in their business is much different to what's going on in mine. From very early on, when I was like legitimizing myself as an Instagram full-time content creator, I realized that I could not do everything myself. I could also not do everything to the standard I wanted it to be. And I think the first person or service I ever hired was a photographer, which seems like a natural progression. Actually, was it? Yeah, no, it's a photographer and an accountant. And I felt so legit after that, because not only did my content game like up level so much, it made me be so much more accountable and so much more organized for what was going on in my business. When you are delegating you are essentially managing people and they're turning up and you're paying them for their time and work, but in return they're giving you something, right? So it was so good for me to delegate from an early stage. And at first I was a little bit like, oh, can I afford this? But actually I always thought about the long run, and I thought, if I'm gonna get these amazing, like, high quality videos for my Instagram, whether they're style hauls or they're like more lifestyle-y inspirational videos, or like, you know, my fashion street style photography is really amazing, I knew that by up leveling my photography and my video game, I could actually charge more. And once I'd done that, I used to send these beautiful videos that I work with. I remember I was working with Cat Films. I've worked with her now for 5 years, and we used to create this beautiful content together back when she was, I think, £40 an hour maybe. She ain't that cheap anymore. But like I would have her for like 3 hours, and you know, like that was what, £120. I was like, oh, okay, really got my money's worth. So I really packed the schedule, and then she would deliver back this like amazing batch of content. It would go up, I'd be so proud. I would then get those links and I would send them to brands. I was like, I can do this for your brand. I can create this for your brand. Here's my pitch. This is the quality of my work that I will produce for you. By the way, do you want to buy extra rights to that content to use on your channel? Yes, you do, because it's so bloody good. So from the beginning, I was delegating, I was up leveling my content using people that are really amazing at what they do. I have a vision, but I can't edit for shit, and I also can't shoot myself in a beautiful video, so I needed help. So I have no regrets about doing that. At the beginning I was a little bit nervous about the money situation, but when I started seeing the return on investment in terms of brands investing in me because I was putting out better quality content, it's a no-brainer. I'll also say that I got my accountant very early on. As much as I like counting my money, I don't like working with taxes. I don't understand it. I didn't know about sole trader, business terms, limited companies, all of this. And I'd never filed a tax return in my life, and you know what, guys, quite frankly, I never want to. So I got a really great guy, and I've been working with him for 5 years since I went full-time, and now loads of content creators actually use him because I've recommended him. But yeah, from the very early on I got him because I was like, that's not something I'm going to bore myself with. That's not something I'm going to add stress to my day trying to understand the accounting elements of my business. So I immediately just delegated that from the get-go, and I would recommend you do too. They're not that cheap, and if you are starting to see brand deals come in and make money from your jobs, I would definitely say it's a worthy investment. Someone's asked me how I manage my time. Time management is really key when running a business. Some of us are good at it naturally, some of us aren't. I would say that I am a chaotic, organized person. I like to think that I'm super organized. I have lists, my lists have lists, but actually at the end of the day, I'm probably not as organized as I should be. Sometimes an idea just takes hold and I just have to run with it, and I drop everything, and it's not the best way to work, but I am getting better, especially since now I manage 3 other talent. I'm working on their briefs, their contracts, their posting schedules, as well as my own. I've had to get super organized. Something that's really helped me, now I am a pen and paper girl. I have had a paper diary up until this year. I changed over to digital. It's now all on my phone, which I'm still kind of getting used to. I've missed a few things, but we're getting there. I still write a to-do list every single day with pen and paper, and there's so many great organizers and pads out there. I will link a few that I like to use down below for you guys so you can have a little look. But something that has been genuinely life-changing for me, organizing not only my content schedule, my to-do list, my other projects, and my extra talent, is Trello. I will link the site down below. It's essentially a moving to-do list. It's all digital, and it's just such a lovely program and tool. It's free, and you can have so many different boards. So all of my talent have their own boards, all my separate projects have their own boards, and it's just amazing. So definitely look into that because it's helped me so much. There's also a little app called Kitly. If you're not on a desktop much, you do prefer to work from your phone, you can use it's sort of like a content creator app where you can create your media cards, you can manage your brand collaborations, you can send invoices, have a brand directory, all on one app. And there is a free trial that you can use, but then after that you have to pay. If you really like it, then why not? But yeah, again, I will link that down below. But time management is super important. One of the best pieces of advice I ever received from a colleague when I used to work at an ad agency was the way to kind of figure out how to tackle your to-do list and manage your time was writing out everything you need to do and then putting it into 2 different columns. one marked urgent, one marked important. So really understanding what on your to-do list is important versus what is urgent. Most things are important, not all things are urgent, although you can have some things that are urgent but not that important. That really helps me kind of decide what I'm going to do first in the day and what I definitely have to do because it's important but not necessarily has to be the first thing I tackle that day. So I've got quite a few questions about time management tips, someone working full-time trying to get their business off the ground, that sort of thing. How do I schedule my days, my weeks, and how far in advance as well. When I was just working on my kind of own content stuff, I would divide the day into 3. I would do like admin 9 till 12, and then I would do like creativity, like filming, editing 12 till 3, and then 3 onwards I would just tackle all of those other bits like contracts or like any extras or overspill or sending stuff or like returns, or you know, I'd be going out to an event or something in the evening. Now that I look after a few talent and I have another project on the side as well as all my own stuff, I find what really helps is delegating days. So on Monday, for example, I'll do loads of emails, invoice chasing, contracts, and like talent management. Tuesday, I will dedicate a whole day to stylelobster, whether that's like thinking about new content coming up or editing content or sending content, doing approvals, that sort of thing, actually posting or scheduling posts. Then Wednesday, I'll dedicate the whole day to my own sort of side projects that I'm working on at the moment, which I can tell you more about later. After that, Thursday and Friday, maybe I'll be out on like a day out with events and meetings. That's another thing, guys. I always used to put my meetings in 1 or 2 days max a week. Not so much of an issue anymore because nobody's really going out and meeting at the moment. But yeah, I would always make sure I'm not going to town and coming back, because that travel, it really ate into my day. And when you're starting a business or you're running a social media business, every hour counts. I'm not gonna lie, I used to work till midnight. That second year when I hit 6 figures, I was working till midnight, like probably 3 nights a week at the least. And then sometimes, even though my days are kind of categorized by different projects and themes, I usually tack an hour of emails on in the morning and then an hour of emails in the evening, just to make sure I'm up to date with everything or there's anything urgent I need to go back to. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you about how to schedule and plan content, and by content I'm assuming she means Instagram content. There are a load of programs that you can use. They're particularly great if you are running like a brand or a business or an e-commerce site, you have things to actually sell to people. But if you do find you like to be this organized and you do have your content done this far in advance, then something like Planoly or Later could be really, really great for you. They're basically schedules that you can schedule in your content and set them a go live date and time. You can put in all your hashtags, you can populate the caption section as well. It's really handy if you're super busy. It's great for brands that have content weeks in advance. Then you should just put it to bed and forget about it and move on. So yeah, we'll link those down below. I've actually not used either of them, but I'm about to choose one and use it for my new business, so I'll keep you posted on what I do actually choose. But yeah, that's a great way to plan in advance. I actually don't plan my Instagram feed that much in advance. Usually it's kind of revolved around paid and sponsored content. So usually when I work with a brand, they will ask for a particular day, or they have a date in mind already, to which I try and accommodate as best I can. If I can't, then I give them alternatives, obviously, and then usually I just pepper my organic content in along there. I think the best way to serve organic content is to just think about the present, like where you are right now, in the here and now, like what you're feeling, what you're thinking. And then obviously I sometimes get ideas. I actually have that Trello board on the internet where I've got all my content ideas I've ever thought of. It's, oh my god, it's so long. Whenever I think about one, I just add it on in case I forget it. So if I'm ever in need of content, I just go over there and I'm like, oh, that idea, I'll shoot that today. So this is one of the miscellaneous questions that I loved and I definitely want to answer because I feel like a lot of people are in this situation. And it is, how do you put your foot down when clients are taking the piss, getting better but still struggling? I get asked this question a lot, even by my own Instagram peers. I think everybody knows when they're about to accept a job, in their heart of hearts, their gut, their mind, whatever, whether or not they feel like they're getting a fair price. Speaking in terms of like rates, it's always a super multifaceted approach when deciding if the rate is worth the job in hand. There's definitely a lot of things to consider. For example, we all have our media rate cards, and I always say these are a guide, and that's what I say to my clients when they ask me to quote for a job, especially when, and often clients will do this, they'll ask you to quote for an Instagram post and a set of stories or whatever, and they won't tell you anything about the brief. They sometimes don't even tell you about the brand, and I absolutely deplore that, because those are factors that admittedly affect my rate. Like, hold my hands up, that's good business at the end of the day. If you know a brand has a lot of money, you're not going to charge them like your average rate, you're going to put a little bit more on, aren't you? Especially when you're entering negotiation, you want to be a little bit higher, so you feel like you can go a little bit lower. They feel like they're getting a deal, but you know they've actually just paid your rate anyway. I think the more you do this, the easier it becomes to say no. The more times you walk away having signed a contract and you're about to create something for a brand and you are not happy with what you're getting paid, there's only several more times you do that until you're like, I'm not doing it again. And if you're still doing it, then I don't know what your problem is. But saying no is easy when you're sure that it's not a good feeling. And that's what I'll say. If you don't have a good feeling about something, then say no, because you'll only damage the relationship when you're doing a half-assed job. You'll stress yourself out. It's not worth it. Like, if a brand comes to me and I'm not, you know, the brand's okay, like it's all right, but the brief's kind of like crazy and they're asking a lot, and it's like I'm required to go outside or shoot or go to location, or it's something I need to hire a photographer in for, and the rate is just really average, then I know immediately I'm gonna walk away from that job because it's too much headache. Whereas if the same brand came to me and they've got quite a low rate, and actually I'm looking at my figures this month and I've not quite reached my total, and we're kind of going towards the end of the month and there's not much time to get more jobs in, then I might consider it. If the brief is super simple, I just need to, it's a product shot, you know, and I don't have to leave my house, I don't have to do my makeup, I don't have to do my hair, I don't have to put my face on camera. It's one story with a swipe up. The brief then becomes so much more manageable, and I don't feel as bad for taking a lower rate. It's when all of these things add up and then suddenly they are asking the world from you, and it happens all the time, and you've agreed to this rate which is like already below what you're worth. I don't really find myself in these positions anymore because I've got wise to it, I guess, but this is the reason you never quote anyone anything until you know exactly what is involved in the brief. That is number one. Two, if they cannot share the brand name, or they cannot share the scope of work, or maybe they don't have a brief ready and they just need figures really quick, you make sure you caveat in your email back to them that these are my figures as a guide, subject to change upon receipt of full brief and scope of work. I write that in nearly every single quote I ever do for any brand, because yes, these are my figures, go off and chat about them, but this might go up when you come back to me with the full brief. And you know, 9 times out of 10 a brand will go away with like a fee in their head, for example £2,000 for an Instagram post and set of stories with a swipe up. They go away and I'm like, subject to receipt of full brief and scope of work. They go away and they're like, okay great, so we'd like to do this, but it involves you going to Bath for the weekend and you have to bring a +1 to help you shoot, and yeah, we also need usage rights to this. What are you doing with the usage rights? Oh, we're gonna put it all over the billboards in Leicester Square. Okay, that's never happened, but do you know what I mean? Like, it just becomes a situation where they're taking the piss, and then you're like, well, no, you need to double the rate, you know, and then we'll talk. So yeah, always caveat with that line. It's helped me get out of so many situations, and yes, brands will always try and get you for less. Another tip I would say is to always go in slightly higher than what you want, maybe 20% or so, just so the brands know that when they haggle a little bit, they feel like they've got some money off and they've got a good deal, but you've actually gone home with your rate. Another way to do it is to inflate your prices slightly by, again, 20% for like a standalone grid post, a standalone set of stories, but then offer them the package rate where you say, I can do this for this, or I can do this for this, but if you book them both together, I'll give you a discounted rate, which is this. That's such a good upselling tactic and has such a good conversion rate for me, because not only do the brands feel like they're getting more for less, you have actually walked away with your regular rate. Instead of them just booking that one grid post or that one set of stories, you're earning more money for, let's admit, not that much more work, because you were going to be shooting the product anyway, whether it was just for stories or just for Instagram. Now you do a little bit of extra work, you've pretty much, you know, added 50% to your rate. So someone's come to me from client end and asked this question. They said, do you have any advice for businesses looking to work with influencers, go direct or through agencies? So I will say, and I think 90% of people will agree with me, that we always prefer dealing with the client direct. I cannot tell you the amount of stuff that gets lost in translation. Yes, people are only human, but also a lot of people are shit at their jobs. So it's so much nicer when you go direct. It also means that the rates can be slightly higher because there's no middleman taking their 20% or their 25% off the top. It's always nicer to get approached from a brand direct if the said business is used to working with influencers. If they haven't worked with influencers in the past, sometimes they like to use an agency to kind of handhold them through the experience, which I totally understand. It can also be beneficial for an influencer if the client is new to working with influencers to actually have that agency in place, because they are going to manage their expectations in terms of rates, in terms to what they can actually ask of you, timelines, everything basically. So yeah, sometimes it is nice to have the agency person in place. Otherwise, you are going to be doing the one that is doing the education. And believe me, it still happens every week where I get a brand come to me and they're maybe like, haven't done a lot of influencer or like social media work in the past with the brand. They want to know all about it, and then it falls on my shoulders if I want this job to basically take them to school, which is annoying and boring. It happens, and you know, if we sign off on a deal that I'm happy with, then of course it's worth it. So yeah, for any brands looking to work with influencers, if you have an influencer marketing executive or manager in your team already who specializes in that, I would always say go direct to the influencer. We much prefer it. The communication is much easier. Having said that, it does depend on the person you're working with. I've heard terrible stories about brands just getting ghosted by influencers who have agreed to a job, and then they're just so shit on email and they're not getting back, or they send the content through, they've not read the brief, they've not included like half the work. It really does depend on the person at the end of the day you're choosing to work with. Obviously, I would always say to brands, do your research. If you've been following that person for a while and you know their tone of voice and you feel like it matches up, like, oh my gosh, when a good brand match comes into my inbox, it's just the best thing in the world. And actually, I'm at a point now where I only take on brand deals where I feel I am so 100% aligned with the brand, or I really love the product, or I'm a long-term fan and an organic relationship is now turned into a commercial one. Always try and go direct, I would say. It's so rubbish for us when we have an agency that's just thinking about their client, and it's really disappointing when we're being pushed back on so hard and no one's taking our feedback on board or anything like that. And we are the expert at what works best on our channels at the end of the day, so it would do brands well to actually heed our advice rather than just force your agenda on us. Obviously, it's a collaboration, it needs to be a meeting of two minds, everybody needs to be happy, but that's always what I want to bring to the table when I do have a collaboration. I want to, you know, understand your product and your objectives, and then feed back and say, I think this would be amazing, this would work really well, this is my creative concept, and I'm open to feedback, you know. But if you're set on something, doing something that I feel just won't resonate or work, or is beyond my capabilities, or don't feel comfortable with, then I'm gonna say no. That's all about, you know, putting down boundaries, which are essential. Okay, so someone's asked me, how do I know which collabs to go to without being scammed? I forget how common this is, and I guess if you are a small influencer, you're just getting started and you're just starting to make cash monies from your social business, then it can be tempting to entertain these scammer emails. I get 25 a week probably. I'm at the point now where I just delete them straight away. But oh my gosh, they usually open up with your Instagram handle rather than saying Dear Emily or To Emily or Hi Emily. Obviously not To Emily, I'm not writing a formal letter. Hi Emily, they'll be hi stylelobster, I'm like delete, absolutely no way. Another one I hate is when they're like hi Emily, but they're like, I absolutely loved the video you made on insert last video I did. It was so refreshing and engaging and such a great piece of enjoyable content, and then they go on to pitch something that's totally unrelated to whatever I did. Anyone that opens an email with that, in my opinion, is a scammer. If they want to compliment my work, then they can put it at the end of the email after they've told me why they're reaching out to me. Like, it's not going to sweeten the deal because you've just got this template and you've just chucked in this compliment which has no relevance to what you're pitching me, which is probably you asking me for the world with no money in return. Anyone that ats you in your comment section asking to DM them for a collab is an absolute no. You should never ever respond to those emails, or those comments should I say. If anyone has a true interest in working with you, they will email you or they might DM you, but my advice is always say, can you email this to me, and we will continue the discussion on email, because then it's totally legitimized, you have a full history, it's not lost in your inbox, your DM inbox. And then the biggest one, of course, is if anyone ever asks you to pay them to be part of a campaign for exposure, that is absolute bullshit, stay well away. Also, anyone that asks you to review their products, but you have to buy the product, again, absolute no, stay away. If anyone wants you to work for them for free, they need to send you the product at the very least. I appreciate that a lot of people do contra deals early on in their careers on Instagram. I certainly did. It's not something I would do now, unless it was a fucking car. Hello. Just be really aware. Also, before you give out your address to anybody offering you product online, make sure you look their name up on LinkedIn. This is if you've never dealt with them before, by the way. Look up their name on LinkedIn, look up their company name, check the company Instagram, see how active they are, and make sure you follow those steps before you give out your personal address. What is the best and worst thing about being self-employed aside from financials? And by financials, I'm assuming you mean not really knowing when your next paycheck is coming. I would say the best thing about working for myself is the freedom I have on how to live my life. Like, I answer to nobody. And that is ultimately where I want to be and how I want to live my life. I want that autonomy that comes with running my own business. I want to be able to wake up in the morning and have a line if I want, move meetings if I want, take days off without having to clear it with someone. I want to be able to cut my own paycheck and decide exactly how much that is every month, every year. I want to take a holiday at the drop of a hat. It's a beautiful place to be, people. It really is. If you can make it work, it is just amazing. And you can make it work. If you're watching this video, you can 100% make it work, because I got the tips. So yeah, just the freedom, never feeling undervalued, and if I do, it's totally my fault, so shame on me. But you know, you learn from your mistakes, don't you? Just not feeling undervalued, like only choosing to work with people that you genuinely want to work with. Like I said, the money, paying what you need, paying what you want, and just being able to manage your own schedule is absolute dream. And I really think that the way things are going now, that people are working from home more due to the current situation in the world right now, more and more people are going to be considering working for themselves moving forward. Freelancers have certainly fared well during coronavirus in terms of, we would probably hit the hardest at the beginning when clients were getting cold feet and they weren't sure if they had the money anymore and they were pulling budgets left, right and center. Yes, I was affected. 3 months I didn't earn a penny other than my retainers that I already had in place. It was a scary time, but we are so adaptable. We are such great adapters. We are so skilled in so many different areas because we have to be, that we are just on the rise now. And I've seen so many people. I ran a poll on my Instagram, and more than half of the freelancers and self-employed people that follow me, or they said that their work is on the up now, and as more people get let go after furlough schemes end, it's the freelancers that are going to back to back. I really believe that. And also, ton of respect to you. It's hard. And the worst thing about being self-employed, and please let me know in the comment section what you think the worst thing about being self-employed is, or a freelancer. But for me, it's definitely the lack of colleagues. My most productive and creative days are when I have people working with me. If I bring in photographers or editors or videographers, or I'm working with, you know, an expert in a field and we're bouncing off each other, those really are the best days, because it just feels really great as a creative to be able to work with other people and like share ideas. And you know, it can be weeks on end where I'm just working with myself, and it can be really shit and lonely, especially when I just talk to someone about anything. It doesn't even have to be work related, but also when you've got a work idea and you want to just hash it out and no one's there, you can really get inside your head and you start thinking, oh, imposter syndrome, is this idea really stupid? Should I not have written that email? Oh, maybe I said that wrong. Ugh. You know, it's like there's no one to just turn around to at the other desk and be like, oh my god, guess what just happened? Also, there's not many people to celebrate your wins with either. I find like I'm just pouring myself a wine in the evening, like, yeah, I just signed off that $5,000 job, baby. Cheers. It can definitely be a lonely profession, but I'm working on it, people. I've got something in the pipeline that can bring us all together in the future, in the very, very near future. So watch this space. This is a really interesting question. Someone said, what do you see changing in your industry, or what is already changing? For sure, I want to see creators taking back more power. I want to see more inclusivity in my industry, for sure. In terms of the events I go to, the trips I go on, the campaigns I'm in, it needs to be way more inclusive. I think if anything, like the BLM movement, flagging that so much this year, how much work we have to do to ensure that this inclusivity happens in our own industries, in our lives, but again, in our industries that we work in. It's so, so important. In the same breath, I want to see influencers taking back more power. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I want influencers to understand not only their power and the level of authority in their own field that they have, but I want them to be able to stand their ground when they feel like they are being fucked over or taken advantage of. I want them to understand their rights. There's nothing out there to support influencers that don't have management say, for example, on how to get paid when they're being like fucked over by a brand, or you know, their content is being used without agreement in places and spaces online or in advertising where it shouldn't. I just feel like people need legislation. They need to know their rights, god damn it. As humanity, the way we digest content is always changing, and it's changing more and more to become online. What I really want to see also is more people accepting ads from their fellow creators. If you follow someone and you digest what they put out on the internet for free, I just get so fucked off when they don't understand the exchange of goods here. We turn up every day and we create stuff for you. We don't get paid for it. It's our energy, it's our time, it's our creativity. In order to continue doing what we're doing and like turning up with the goods every day for you, we need to take an income from somewhere. Now it's up to you whether or not you feel like the influencer you're following is taking on, you know, job collaborations or brand deals that you feel align truthfully with what they represent. Totally up to you. That is your choice. If you feel like they are not making the right decisions or they're not being truthful, then the unfollow button is always there. However, if you choose to follow someone because you engage and you love their free content, then you need to be hitting that like, that save button. You need to be engaging, because for every person that doesn't engage or like, and the less people that get shown that content, the less money they make from that job next time. Maybe they can't do this anymore. Maybe they're not earning enough to continue being a full-time content creator for you. Maybe they have to go get another job. Maybe you end up seeing less of them, of what you love, because they've had to go and take extra shifts down the pub or something. I don't know. So yeah, it costs the audience nothing, and I really would like to see people kind of just opening up to that and accepting it. And if they really love their content creator that they follow and they trust their integrity, then they support them in the best way they can, which is totally free, just engaging. Somebody has asked me, what is plan B for you if influencing is no longer lucrative anymore? Well, I don't think I'm ever gonna stop influencing because it becomes unlucrative. Every year the influencer industry grows in the billions. It's showing no signs of stopping. It won't stop. The way we consume product and buy is increasingly moving to online. Bricks and mortar retail is shrinking. The voice and the power of the influencer is growing stronger by the year. When I leave this job, or if I leave this job, it won't ever be because it's no longer lucrative, that's for sure. It will be because my mental health has had enough. Honestly, you give your life and your soul to this job. I cannot even, that isn't an understatement. At least that's how I work, you know, with my life being online. It's a catch-22 really, because I always felt like I was born to be in front of the camera, talking to people, entertaining people, telling stories. I love it. I'm good at it, and I genuinely love it, but it takes its toll. It's a lot, you know. You put a lot of pressure on yourself to show up every day and deliver, constantly feeding the hamster wheel. I don't know if I'll stop. I love it, but it takes everything from me. It takes every ounce of me. It's an interesting question though, because this year really has shed a light on how I feel about what I do, and with all that glamour of the press trips, the events, you know, not earning as much for 3 months, it really stripped it back to the bare bones of what it was, you know, showing up on camera every day for everyone. And I think without all the shiny, sparkly distractions, I didn't get that relief anymore. Like, there were no like rewards essentially, other than the ones that I get, which are the feedback from you guys, which is always the most rewarding thing ever. You know, better than any press trip, better than any party, or better than any freebie is when I get the messages from you guys that you send me. That's what keeps me going more than anything. But this year, really, having stripped everything back, it just made me really focus on what I wanted to do next, and the wheels are in motion. So I'm excited for the next chapter, and yes, you can come with me, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. So yeah guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope it was super interesting.